Okay, good morning. It's 8 o'clock, so it's time to get started with our lecture for this morning. Today we have two things in our agenda. We need to finish this lecture on planning the project, and the second thing we're going to do is our third case study, which is going to be based on the material we covered last Thursday and the material that we're going to cover today. The attendance sheet is passing around, so make sure that you sign. Any particular questions? If in case you were not here on Thursday, we returned the exams on Thursday. So if you were not here and you want to see your exam, you can stop by my office. The grades should be posted. You should be able to see your score on tracks. And other than that, if you have any other questions about the class, let me know. On Thursday, we start discussing two major things. There were two documents that are very important when you're starting to plan a project. One of them was called the project charter, and the second was the statement of work. And we talk about the components of these two documents and also how they compare. And we went specifically and talked about those components. You remember we talked about the objectives, how to state the objectives using the SMART approach, and so on. So today we're going to continue with this lecture, and we're going to talk about the planning process. So in this part of the lecture, we discuss the problem of determining the tasks required to complete the project. And also we're going to discuss some tools that you can use to plan the actual project. So the first thing that you have to do is to launch a meeting. This is a startup meeting, and then this meeting you're going to be stating the objectives of the project, and you're going to be doing some brainstorming and see how you can split the work among the people who are going to be working with you in this project. So you're going to have a launching meeting, and also you're going to have some extra meetings that are going to happen afterwards to follow up on the project. So once appointed to a project, the project manager's first job is to review the project objectives. And make sure that as a project manager, you understand what are the goals and the deliverables of the project. Project managers should study the project with an eye to preparing an invitation list for the project launch meeting. And you need to make sure that you include at least one representative of senior management so they understand what are the goals and how you want to proceed with the project, and managers from functional areas involved in the project. So if you're going to have people from marketing involved in this project, you need to make sure that the managers are also part of this project meeting so they understand how are you going to be using their resources. Some of the launch meetings are restricted to brainstorming. A problem. So basically, this is an open discussion in which you're going to be trying to find out the best ideas or best strategies to tackle the project or the problem. So, for example, here I have a program launch meeting output for a human resource development program. And the goal of the program was to reduce the employee turnover from 60% to 40%. And the program manager was the human resource director. So turnover basically means that you have employees that are not staying at the company. So you spend some money training these employees and you want to keep them for a long time so you can make a return of investment. But if you start training these employees and then these employees start leaving to other companies, that's bad for the company. Because you're putting resources to train these people and other people are taking those resources on a different company. So for this particular program or project, the human resource management is trying to find out what strategies to follow in order to see how can we reduce this turnover rate for the company. So they were brainstorming some of the ideas. For example, improve the employee morale and broaden the staff competencies, attain stronger employee commitment to organizational standards for productivity outcomes and customer satisfaction, and improve the recruitment efforts. So these ideas or these objectives can also help in terms of the goals of this program. And you can see that for these ideas, there's a list of action items that can be followed in order to obtain or to achieve these goals. Okay? So this is an example of some of the things that you can come up in this study meeting. The result of the launch meeting should be that the project's scope is understood, and fixed if it needs to be fixed. The functional managers understand their responsibilities and have committed to develop a initial task and a resource plan. And any potential benefits to the organization outside the scope of the project needs to be noted. Okay, so in this first meeting, you want to make sure that everybody understands the scope of the project. The functional managers, people who are in charge of the different areas of the company, they understand what are the goals, what are their responsibilities, and how they're going to be using their resources to help you achieve the goals of this project. And also any potential benefit to the organizational needs to be addressed in this meeting. In the meetings that follow, the project plan will become more and more detailed and firmer. Okay, so you have the project. You want to start assigning some responsibilities among the people who are going to be involved. You want to brainstorm those ideas, and you want to come up with a list of tasks that everybody is going to be doing in order to achieve this project or the goal of the project. One of the tools that's been used for a long time to get these meetings easy to brainstorm the ideas with all the peoples in the meeting is called the work breakdown structure, but we're not going to talk about that yet. This is 28. So what emerged from this process is sometimes called the project baseline plan. And then you're going to have everybody agreeing in this baseline plan. So when senior management, the client, and other stakeholders have signed off on the plan, then it will become part of the project charter. So remember, we talked about the project charter. Now we have everybody same meeting. We're discussing the ideas, how to achieve this project, how to complete the project, what are the things that we need to do. So once you start working on this plan, this project baseline plan, and everybody agrees on that, you can add to the project charter, and that will become part of the project charter. So now let's talk about one of the tools that you can use to address these list of tasks and split the work among the functional departments. This is called the Work Breakdown Structure, WBS. This is a tool for listing and organizing all the project's work. Anybody familiar with this tool, the Work Breakdown Structure? If you have tried to plan something, maybe you have used some type of tool similar to this one. So let's say you're planning a birthday party or something like that. You have a list of people coming. Let's say you have more than 30 people. So there are multiple things that you need to plan for: location, the food, drinks, and so on. So you have two options. You can try to do everything yourself, or you can split the task. So that's basically the idea of the work breakdown structure. So you're going to have a top level and a lower level. You're going to start splitting the tasks, and you're going to be assigning some of those tasks to different people. So ensure that any task required to produce a deliverable is not overlooked. Making the list of tasks is not a non-trivial job and requires a systematic procedure. So if you want to make sure that you cover all the tasks, then you need to follow this systematic procedure. So the WBS, or the work breakdown structure, is a hierarchical planning process used to account for all the tasks in the project. Anybody familiar with object-oriented programming here? Programming with Java, programming with C++. So if you understand the idea behind object-oriented, that you're going to have an object and you're going to be doing some extraction from that object to make another object, so you're going to have this hierarchical structure to build your program. So that's basically the idea we're trying to follow with this work breakdown structure. So you're going to have top, and from there you're going to have split some of the tasks, and those tasks are going to be splitted, and so on until you get to the lower level. It identifies every activity that must be completed to satisfy the requirements and serves as the input for developing time and cost estimates. And again, this is going to look kind of simple, but again, if you follow this systematic approach, you're going to make sure that you're going to cover all the things that you need to do in order to achieve the goals of the project. So the guidelines to to work on this work breakdown structure, first thing you need to do is to list or prepare a list of activities. And you need to ask what needs to be done and why. So once you have these tasks, then you know that some of them are going to come first, some of them are going to follow those tasks. So you're going to have some sequence that you need to follow in order to complete the whole thing. So you need to organize tasks in order, or in the order in which they must be completed. So if you remember the project in which you were assembling this Boeing airplane, you needed to have some of the components first, and then you can transport those components to the assembly area so you can put the whole thing together and so on. So you need to find out what is the sequence, and then continue to break down into more precise levels of detail. Establish the beginning and ending point of each task, and organize the activities into a hierarchy of tasks. So for that, you can use a tree diagram. And I'm going to show you an example. So the easy way to see this top to down structure is by drawing a tree diagram. More about the work breakdown structure, and list the major activities that must be completed to achieve the project objectives. And that's what we're going to call the level 1 activities. So these are the top level activities that need to be completed. And from there, you're going to start splitting those activities into more detailed components. That's what we're going to call the level 1 activities. The planner, each level 1 activity and delegates it into an individual or functional group. Okay, so let's think about, let's say you want to produce a new cell phone. And in order to bring this product to completion, you need to address the different areas. So one of them will be the components of the new cell phone. So you need to make sure that you have access to those components. If you're going to add any new features, let's say in terms of programming, you need to address that area. So you need to find a group that is going to be making sure that that new feature is available for the cell phone. Then we talk about the materials, we talk about the components, we talk about the features, maybe the battery. You need to find out a group that can design a new battery that will last longer for the type of cell phone that you're going to design. Then you need to address the marketing issues. So how are you going to market this product? Are you going to be marketing this product to young adults? Are you going to be marketing this product to the adult population? So you see, you start looking at all the activities from a general perspective, and you start assigning those large activities to each one of the areas of your company. And that's what we call level 1 activities. The legacy deals with the task as if it is itself a project. and makes a plan to accomplish it. That's what we call level 2 activities. So again, going back to the same example, let's say we want to add this new feature to the cell phone. So the programmers or computer department of the company will take care of that new feature. So you're going to assign that task to that area, to that functional department, and that functional department is going to take that task and it's going to work on that task as it was a project itself. And it's going to be responsible for assigning the subtask for that part of the project. And that's what we call level 2 activities. And from there, you can start splitting the activities more and more until you get to the lowest level of your project.
Question? Yeah, I was going to say, what would be the difference in this case, like we were talking about, where you treat each task like its own project? Why would that make the project any different from the program?
That's a good question. And if you're treating each task as a project, you can call this a program. But the idea is, in essence, it's just one project. You're going to have different activities that need to be completed to achieve this project. So what I'm trying to say here is it's not going to be a separate project because the actual feature is not going to be doing anything for the company. But you can treat that activity as a separate project.
So this is a slightly different definition of task than the one
yes.
we did earlier. Just a simple thing.
Yes. In this case, this activity, you're splitting the activities of the project, and that part of the project is going to help achieve the goal of the project, but it's not a project itself. Okay? A good question. Any other questions? Good. So, more about the work breakdown structure. Another strategy to creating this tool is by gathering the project team together with a pad of sticky notes, and then you can start splitting the project in major tasks and subdividing those tasks into more detailed tasks. And this is something that is used in different companies. So don't be scared of seeing something like that if you go work for a company. So this is another way to create this work breakdown structure. And again, I think I referred to a similar example in this lecture. This is how this work breakdown structure can look like. This is also a tree diagram. So you start with the goal of the project. This is to plan this annual tribute dinner, and then you can start splitting those activities. So this is what we're going to call the level 1 activity. So you're going to have people in charge of the event hosts, invitation, provide entertainment to the dinner, food and drink, thank you notes, and so on. And then you're going to start splitting those activities into more levels until you get into the lower level of your project. Something that you need to make sure is that at any given level, the degree of detail of the task should be roughly the same. So if you're going back to the same example, in which you're planning this cell phone, you're going to make sure that you have a marketing campaign, you have a group developing these new features, group in charge of developing the new battery. So when you say, I want this group to make sure that the marketing of the product is going to take, let's say, 50% of young adults and 50% of adults, and then you don't want to plan a level 1 objective for the battery, saying that the battery should be have these type of components, and it has to be developed using this material, because the same level of detail is not balanced. So you want to address these levels using these tasks at the same level. So make sure that you involve the same level of detail when you're defining the same level activities. In general, the job of planning should be delegated to the lowest competitive level. So at level 1, this is usually the project manager. At lower levels, functional managers, and the specialists are the best planners. See, your project manager is going to tell you, okay, we need to do a marketing campaign, press the battery, new features. Then you're going to delegate those to the level, to the functional managers. Functional managers are going to take those assigned tasks, are going to split those, and they're going to delegate into the specialists. Okay, so you start distributing the task from top to down. So on the next slide, we have an example. So if you're planning a building, first level deliverables are building. Then for the second level, you're going to have a summary of tasks. So you need to come up with an architectural drawing, building supplies, ventilation system, water, electrical system. And then at the third level, you're going to have to find out an architectural drawing to address those issues. So you need to get an architect and check the blueprint template. And then at the fourth level, you might start finding an architect to address these design of the building. So you start from here, then from the lower level, you can achieve the actual deliverable, which is the building. Now, in terms of the validation of these work breakdown structure, it's good to have another independent person or group make a work breakdown structure for your project, so you can basically compare and see if you are missing a component of one of the tasks. Create a cost breakdown structure that budgets the project cost to individual activities. And we're going to talk about budget later in this course. In a poor work breakdown structure undermines all project planning, execution, and control work. So it's very important that you plan all of these activities and you address all of them in their respective levels. So you want to have a good planning for your project. So benefits of this tool: defines the work scope, defines the project, serves as the basis for cost and scheduling, help executing and controlling the work, serve as the basis for project accounting, serve as the basis for change control, communicates responsibilities, and help the management of risk. There are other extensions of this tool. So the work breakdown structure can be reshaped with some additional data, often not included in the project's work breakdown structure. So some of the data that you can also include in this tool is estimates of the resources required for each task in the plan, estimated time required to accomplish each task, information about who has the responsibility for the task, and finally, data that would allow tasks to be sequenced so that the set may be completed in the shortest possible time. So along these comments, in our next lecture, we're going to learn how to use the Microsoft Project. And Microsoft Project also allows to address some of these issues. So it is a good planning tool that you can use to split the task, look at the sequence of tasks, assign resources, assign costs, and so on, so you can have a better idea of your sequence of tasks for completion of your project. And these modified work breakdown structure basically follows some of those ideas. So here's an example. So instead of having that tree, we're going to have a list of tasks, and we're going to have the predecessor of each one of the tasks. So if you have task 1 and you need to complete something else before you start working on that task, you're going to list that predecessor here. You're going to have the time, duration, the resources that you need to complete that task, and who is responsible for that task. And on the next slide, we have an example. So this is a work breakdown structure, a modified work breakdown structure for improving staff orientation. So we have the project objective here at the top: enhance new employee orientation to improve retention and more effectively communicate organization policies and procedures. We have the measurable outcomes, and then we have the tasks. So for example, orientation task force launch, that's going to take 2 weeks. There's no predecessor for that. You have the resources that are going to be involved in that task, and you also have the person who is responsible for that task. If you look at these tasks right here, work with speakers to review presentation, then you're going to have a duration of 4 weeks, and you have a predecessor here, 3C, which is actually here, review and finalize orientation enhancement. So from here you can have a better understanding of how these tasks are going to be completed and how these tasks are going to be influencing the completion of the next task. And again, this type of diagram or table is going to be easy for you to understand them or to represent them using Microsoft Project. And we will show you how to do that next time. So again, that concludes this lecture. So we started to understand how to plan the project, what are the things that we need to complete and to do to plan your projects. We started by discussing some of the documents that are important, the project charter, the statement of work, and then we started talking about the work breakdown structure. So basically allows you to see the multiple things that you're going to need to achieve in order to complete your project, and how can you split those responsibilities across the company. So what I have now, what I want you to do now is to use the concept that we learned in this class, some of the things that we learned in class today and on Thursday, and to apply those concepts to our case. So, so in terms of the case studies performance for this course,